Hey friends, it's Anne. Welcome back to the Stationery Junkie. Today I'm doing a little Techo Kaigi, just going through all of the planners and journals that I've used this year and talking about what actually worked for me in 2025. Now, I really did not change my whole system, but I definitely made some small adjustments here and there, and it's been interesting to see how everything evolved as the year went on. And this video is basically a look back at my 2025 lineup and also a preview for my 2026 planner lineup, which I will share in a separate video. So think of this as the reflection part, and the next one will be the reset. So let's get into it. I'm gonna start first from the left to the right, with the first one being the Ars Studio Research Journal. This is the Gift 2025 edition. In my previous Techo Kaigi, the beginning of the year, I intended to use this as my creative journal, which I did. And I also mentioned in that Techo Kaigi lineup that I am going to be using this whenever I want to, and basically just ignore the dates that are in this planner because this is a dated planner, but I essentially just use it for anything creative, any memory keeping, any junk journaling. So this is kind of like a hybrid journal of sorts. It's just the thing that I go to whenever I feel like it, whenever I want to be creative, use up my stationery and stuff like that. So just to quickly show you what is inside here, I basically used some parts of it, not all of it, not all of the sections. I did do some decoration of sorts. The monthlies I have used as a gratitude log. Usually what I do is I just let the month pass, and because I keep a daily gratitude log in my main planner, it's not very difficult for me to go back here and repopulate the monthly sections for that. And I like how I've maintained it to be this clean because it's easy for me to just reference this section of the planner to review everything that I had been grateful for that month. So that is what I'm using the monthly section for, and I have yet to backtrack on my September. And when it comes to the weekly section, because this is a weekly planner, this is where I do all of the creative things that I said I was gonna do for this planner. So what I do is just play with all of my stationery, my stickers, my press-on stickers, stamps, and everything else, washi tapes and what have you, and I write whatever. Basically, the things that I write here are Italian lyrics because I'm learning Italian. So I thought that I could probably just write a few of my favorite Italian song lyrics here and just play around. And I like always looking back here, and I'm always reminded of how I put this together, because usually in this section is where I try to unwind. Whenever I have a very stressful weekday, I would go here and just dump everything in terms of stickers, in terms of stamps. I just like to play around with a theme. For example, like this spread, I used my washi tape shop washi tapes basically and just wrote whatever and following a theme and stuff like that. So I have not been keeping up, but for me, it's not a big issue for me because, as I mentioned, I don't pay attention to the dates. I look at it as planner with this kind of layout and just play around with all of my stationery. So I have yet to fill up the text that I usually do here at the bottom of the designs that I make. So what I usually do is just, I'm really very stressful, I just want to play around. So I do just that and then add the text or write something after the fact. So yeah, I like looking at it. I like that there is a theme happening. So I'm really very just pleased just looking at it, and it helps me distress. I will be coming in here every so often and just play around. So I still have a long way to go because this is kind of like week 21. So this is May. So this is just in May. So I really don't really care about the dates, as I mentioned. And then at this part of the planner, the free note, I have not done anything here. Again, this is not a huge deal for me. It's not something that I stress over. What I do use this free note section And for this particular section where I stick some business cards of the places that I go to with my husband and myself. So I would get the business cards of some restaurants, of some establishments, and I write about what I did there. So it's kind of like a memory keeping exercise that I do here, and I really like doing that. So I still have a couple more pages left here, and that's pretty much the extent of how I filled up this journal. So in a sense, this research journal by ours is coming with me in 2026 because I really want to fill up this journal. So I'm not gonna get the 2026 research journal no matter how cute and beautiful it is. I am pretty happy with what I have in the 2025 journal so far, and I kind of like also decorated it myself, personalized it and stuff, and I owe it to Chris from Ella Nim for that idea because she also customized her own Ars journal, putting in her own stickers and stuff like that. So that is my creative journal. Next in the lineup of 2025 are these two books which are serving as my main journal, meaning my Dear Diary journal. So I have two so far because this logical search notebook I actually started in the middle of 2024 in August, but I finished this notebook in 2025. Let me just take a look. Oh, the beginning of 2025 in March. I finished this in March 7th. So yeah, I just used this as a Dear Diary, and after I finished with this one, the reason why it took me quite a while to finish this is because I do not journal every day. And also with this one, I carried over my musings in this Kokuyo Century notebook. And like I said, I don't journal every day, but I'm already gonna be almost done with this notebook. I don't think this notebook is mainstream, the Century notebook by Kokuyo. I got this in Singapore, and the GSM of this notebook is around 100, so it's quite thick and the paper is very smooth. It's dot grid. I sometimes like and don't like this paper because for some reason it is too smooth, and sometimes when my hand oils come into contact with the paper, my fountain pen skips. But yeah, I really love using this notebook because I'm able to use my wet fountain pen inks and my fountain pens here and use the broader kind of fountain pen nibs on this one. I like writing thick, so this is like the perfect notebook for that. So I started this when did I start this? March 9 of this year, and I'm already at the last few pages, so I don't think this is gonna survive until December. I'm contemplating on starting another one, but in my 2026 lineup, I will be doing daily journaling in my Jibun Techo days. So I'm still on the fence whether I will be journaling for December because, as I mentioned, I don't really journal every day, usually just when the need arises or when I need to decompress. So that is still up in the air, but I just wanted to share these Dear Diary sort of journals, and I won't be able to flip through the pages because these are confidential, all of my thoughts, and these are unfiltered thoughts. Some of them could be like in a burn book of sorts because I write for myself and I do not have any filters. I say everything and anything in these books, so I won't be able to flip through. But I do decorate the pages. I like doing that. It makes me like to go back to them because I do reference back my old journals just to be curious. Whenever I'm curious basically about what I've been thinking about, what I've been feeling on a certain day, I go back and read some of the notes here or the entries here basically. So there you have it. These are my main journals. And now we get to the stars of the show. I call them the stars because these are my main planners. This is a B6 Owl Paper Planner Journal. They are a 2-book system. This is the January to June and this is the July to December. So I'm currently using this one. And it has chunked up a little bit, but not a lot because I don't put ephemera in my main planner. Also here in the first half, it's also quite thinner than the second half because I use this as a work slash personal planner. So I spend majority of my days in the office at work. So I don't decorate. I don't put ephemera in my main planners, although I do decorate my main planner, the front and the back. I like doing that. It gives it some personality. And well, in the office, nobody snoops around anybody else's stuff. So I really appreciate that. But definitely, I will be continuing with the Owl Paper Planner Journal. I have already ordered my 2026 one. And I am a little wary because I have a feeling that I will be receiving those planners, worst comes to worst, the beginning of January because of some delays in production that Marissa was very kind to update all of her customers about it. And I know that it's beyond her control what the manufacturer's time schedule is. But I have some backup plans in case the planner doesn't arrive in December or at least before the year ends because I usually set up my planners before the start of the year. So basically, as I mentioned, these are my main planners. As much as possible, really, I wanted to have just a one book system for a main planner, but I've committed to the Owl Paper Planner Journal already, which is still a 2-book system, and that is fine. I have survived using these, but I just wanted to say that the first half I actually ran out of pages because wasn't able to do the June daily loggings here because the free pages or the blank grids are not enough to contain 1 month. So I had to move my daily logging in a separate B6 gridded notebook. I am really hoping that I am able to use up my second half of the book until the end of December. So let me just show you how many pages are still left because I have been very liberal in using all of the pages here. But so far, I have not used the second half of the book for any pen tests or whatever or any scratch paper kind of thing. So I still have this remaining pages left. Hopefully, I hope to God that it still will get me through December. I have a bad feeling that it won't. But it's not the planner's fault. It is the way that I plan because I don't contain myself to just 1 page a day. So sometimes if in my daily logs I need another page to continue, then I will use another page. So if you're familiar with how I do plan in my main planner, it's bullet journal style, the OG bullet journal style where I do the monthly log. I do have a weekly Alistair method kind of thing, and I do rapid logging every day. So what I do in the monthlies, let me just show you a very recent one. This is my November. This is my October monthly log where I do a daily highlight. And what I really love about this exercise so far is that I try to do some lettering no matter how scratchy or uneven it is. I kind of like it because it's charming for me to just look at this full spread and just have these texts pop out in my vision. And I kind of like gravitate to a certain day, what happened, what was the highlight of that day. And I kind of like it. So I carried it over to November. So I did some lettering and some bit of writing here. And I kind of like decorated the monthly spread this time around because before I will only decorate the sidebar. And I kind of like it because here in the previous ones, it's just plain writing. So usually I'm not kind of like looking back into all of these, but I change it up whenever I can. And I like the current setup that I have right now. In the weekly section, I don't use it as a conventional weekly planning. What I do here is I do my daily tarot card pulls. I have a daily horoscope and I do my daily earworm song of the day and a bit of tracking that I also take note of my YouTube subscribers, which I fairly recently have done. And I also do some reflections about my tarot and horoscope for that week. I have yet to do my reflection from last week, but it's fine. It's very easy to do that. And I have yet to put in my Saturday readings. So I'm filming this today, November 22. And when it comes to the notes section, I mentioned that I do rapid logging. I just use a Sterling Ink freebie vellum that I print on a monthly basis that acts as my divider, and I do rapid log. So I also do the Alistair method that you're seeing here, and the rest is rapid logging. And in one of my previous videos, as an update to my main planner, I have done interstitial journaling, wherein I log the time that I kind of like change what I'm doing during the day, just to help me understand what I've been doing. And I kind of like this method. I have been using this kind of daily planning for the past 2 years, and I am going to be continuing with this kind of planning next year. So in my 2026 planner lineup, I don't think I'll be able to show the 2026 owl paper until they arrive, so I'll probably just use this as a placeholder, but just to let you know that this will still be the system that I will use in 2026 as a main planning device. Next, I have my health planner, which is housed in a Hobonichi Weeks. I have been really very consistent so far using this. If you have seen my video on how I use my health planner, I will link that up so that you can see everything that I'm tracking, why I'm doing this. Spoiler alert, this will be the same system that I will be using next year, albeit in a different planner. I will be using a Jibun Techo Days. So next year, it's not going to be a Hobonichi Weeks, but I do have a 2026 Hobonichi Weeks, which I will use differently. So just to quickly walk you through my health planner, in the monthlies, I do some tracking of my weight, my steps, and also my husband's blood pressure whenever he's able to take them. I also track my sleep here. In the weekly sections, I do food log. So all of the pages that you're seeing here are food log. My physical condition and my mental health condition are also being tracked. And very recently, just a couple of months ago, I've been also highlighting which particular food has affected my weight, whether I gained my weight eating late or eating something heavy during lunch, so that I know what to avoid and stuff like that. And I'm also actively highlighting or monitoring my mental health condition, because these two columns refer to my physical health and this is my emotional or mental health. And I highlight these sections whenever something is off. And as you can see in this week, the week of early November, I was really in a bad space, mental and physically, and it carries on until very recently this week. And in the notes section is where I do all of my tracking. I still use the freebie monthly calendars of Sterling Ink that I use as a divider. I will do a health summary from the previous month and do my trackers. There you go, for the current month. Then do another reflection of my health summary for the particular month. And then it just goes on and on. So I like doing this because as a woman of that age, wherein I am in my perimenopausal stage, I need to keep track of things so that I can advocate for myself when I talk to my doctor. So this is, this is the current one, November. So I like doing this and I will continue to do this in my Jibun Techo. I will show or share with you how I plan to adapt this trackers, all of these logs in my Jibun Techo days in the next video. Is a new addition to my 2025 lineup. This is a repurposed Hobonichi Weeks. This is a 2023 April start weeks that I used to use as a reading journal, but I wasn't able to fully utilize all the pages, so I repurposed them, the unused pages rather, as a language journal. So now I keep my language notes here, my Italian lessons here. And I did a separate video on how I used my Hobonichi Weeks as a language journal. You can take a look into that. I will put up a link to that video so that you can understand how I use the different sections. But very quick rundown of this is that I'm using this part as the log of what I've been doing. So whether it's listening, reading, writing, or speaking, I take notes note. I have yet to update my October, but that's not a problem because everything is logged. At a glance, I can definitely see I've been doing a lot of listening exercises for my language learning here. It means I need to ramp up all of the other skills, especially speaking, because in October I only did a couple of speaking drills. So I need to continue practicing my speaking skills in Italian so that I can log them here. So seeing that trend helps me adjust how I study the language. And when it comes to the monthlies, this is where I track what I did for that day. And I also take note of in red ink if I did not do any studying that day. And it's perfectly normal. I try to be gracious with myself and not beat myself up whenever there are times wherein I don't have the capacity to study. But whenever I can, I do try to study passively at the minimum. So I do a lot of listening, and I also keep track of how many minutes I do my studying. I just wanted to track them. I have yet to find a reason why I need to track these timings. Maybe in a future iteration of my language journal, I'll be able to make use of these information because I don't want to track stuff just for the sake of them. I need to find a reason why. I need to find a correlation so that I am able to sustain that kind of habit tracking. So for the meantime, the monthlies is a summary of what I do on a daily basis, whether it's listening, doing my weekly lessons with my Italian tutor, whether I am using my other devices or other apps to learn is where I log here. And in the weekly section, I've actually changed the way I use this. I have now not used the columns. I am just using it as it is, like a horizontal layout like this, and just writing down what I did for that day, whether I listened to a podcast or did some writing, used my grammar books, reviewed my grammar and stuff like that. So I keep a log of those here. And in the notes section, it's also pretty much common placing of sorts. I do some exercises here. I do take down notes from my weekly lessons. I also do some note taking. I do some exercises, as I mentioned. Yeah, writing exercises and stuff like that. So I like how I have been using the notes section in that way. And I will be using Hobonichi Weeks in 2026 for my language planner. So basically, I just wanted to try out the Hobonichi Weeks this year to see how that would fit the way I plan or the way I try to learn the language. And so far, the exercise or the experiment is working really well with the Hobonichi Weeks. So I will continue this for 2026. I'm not sure if I have actually talked about this, but I do keep an ink journal. It's quite different from my other ink journals because I do have an ink swatching journal, like 2 of them actually. But this one is where I log all of the pens and the inks that I use. And again, I use this Take a Note A6, not minding the dates, because I will be so pressured, if I needed to use this as an actual weekly planner, like making sure I am in here on a daily basis because it's dated. But because I don't care about the dates, that has taken an immense pressure off my back. How have I been using this? The Gantt chart here, I do not use the year at a glance. I do use as a log of all of the inks that I'm using on a specific page. So this is kind of like an index page, and the rest of the pages here I will show you in a little while. So just a log of all of the inks that I've been using so far. The monthly sections I use as a swatch of the inks that I have inked up on my pens. So I have completed January. Yay me. Because I usually tend to finish the ink in the pen before I ink up another one, or sometimes, I do ink up several pens at a time, but I try not to ink so many I only ink up how many I can keep within my pen case, but nothing more than 5 or like 4. That's too much for me. 4 inked fountain pens, that will be too much. So every time I ink a new pen, I will do a quick swatch here in the monthly section just to have a quick guide on or a quick look at what I've actually done. So if I don't know what this ink is, I will just go back here in the year at a glance to know which one, what's the name of the ink that I've used on this date. And the weeklies I do use as a place where I can test the pen with the ink. I write a couple of stuff like, how do I feel about the pen? Is it a wet writer? Is it a good writing experience and stuff like that? So it's just a catalog of how I've been using the pen with the ink. And to a certain extent, I've been writing some Italian stuff here. But I just like to see how the ink performs in combination with the pen and on this Tomoe River 68 GSM paper. There are some thoughts and feelings about the pen and the ink here, and I like reviewing it. I like looking back into what I've done so far with my pen collection. Sometimes I would decorate the page. I like seeing it, how I have been using all of the pens in my collection. So it's a great way for me to use up my pens and inks doing it like this. So I still have a long way to go. So suffice to say, I will be continuing with this. Take a note for next year, because look at that. I've only used up a couple of pages. So I still have a long way to go. So again, 2025 dates ignored. I will use this as a regular notebook. And that's everything I've been using this year. It's kind of nice to look back and see what actually worked and how a few small adjustments made a big difference in my 2025 system. So my 2026 planner lineup is coming up next. So if you want to see where I'm heading and what I'm switching up for the new year, make sure to follow the channel, hit that subscribe button to watch out for that video. And I just want to thank you so much for hanging out with me today. If you enjoyed this Techo Kaigi, feel free to like, comment, or share what your 2025 setup looked like. I always love hearing from you guys. And until then, I will see you in the next one.